Good afternoon, everybody. Hello and welcome to Stamping Chat Live for Friday the 21st of January 2022. As always, please let me know if you can hear and see me okay. I'm really hoping that the microphone is working today, but I won't know until somebody tells me. So if you could let me know, I would be very grateful. I've been having mixed results with it over the last couple of weeks. My suspicion is that it is something to do with Facebook. I know one day I did have a loose connection, but I can't seem to replicate the fault, so it's a bit annoying. But let me know if you can hear me. Fabulous. Thank you so much, Kay. That's made my day. It would be so nice to do a live with no technical issues, so we'll see how we get on. Right, first of all, I'm sorry, I've got to put some hand cream on. I forgot to do it before we started. Well, I didn't forget. I washed my hands and then I was setting up, so I suppose I sort of forgot. But I don't know. All this hand washing, it's really important and I'm very diligent, but gosh, it makes your hands dry. So let me just rub some hand cream in and then, oh, that's it. They won't feel like they're going to crack when I bend my fingers. Okay, so it's Friday again. I know I say this with monotonous regularity every week, but where does the week go? Honestly, it seems like 5 minutes ago it was Friday and I was doing this all over again, which is slightly odd. I get this feeling of deja vu when I do my Friday lives because I keep thinking, have I just said that? And actually it was a week ago. But it's lovely to be here. I'm delighted that you could join me, Kay, and Mary's here. So thank you very much, Mary, for coming in and joining us. I've got a fun set of crafting projects for you. I'm hoping some of you are going to be crafting along. But until then, I'll tell you a little bit about my week, and I'd love to know what you've been doing with your week. Well, it's been really cold here, really cold. And this morning I went out about 10 o'clock. And my windscreen on my car had mostly defrosted, but the thermometer said that it was only 1 degree outside, and I had ice on the inside of my windscreen, which frankly is never good news. So that took a little bit of dealing with, but it was really, really cold when I went out. And I know if I lived further north, I would probably think that whatever it was last night, -4 or something, is nothing. My son went off to work this morning and he said it was -3 when he left here at about 6:30. I should think it was. I've broken the water on the pond, which is just there, twice today. The birds were not very happy when it froze over again. So Mary says the sound keeps going, disappearing. Is anybody else having that? I really hope not. I really hope not. I know the internet has been dodgy locally recently. I've had a lot of people complaining about that, so I don't know if it's that or not, or it might just be me moving my head too much, Mary, because my microphone is just down here and really I shouldn't be doing that. I should be just staying fairly straight, but I'm not very good at that. Okay, so what have you been doing with your week? I was just moaning about the cold, wasn't I? I had my team meeting on Monday, which was lovely. We had an online meeting because we're all being very COVID secure and sensible. We made some projects with the beautiful Flowering Fields suite. So we were making paper tulips. I certainly had a lot of fun and I know the girls did too. Kay is saying the sound is still okay. Wonderful. Thank you very much for letting me know, Kay. Mary, it might just have been me tossing my head around a little bit wildly. I'll try not to. So I did that on Monday. That was really nice. What else did I do? I wrote things down because my memory is like a sieve. Oh yes. I made a note to tell you. I will show you the projects from that next week. So yes, I will show you the projects for that next week. Next week I'm going to be looking at the Flowering Fields suite, and the next suite sampler is from that as well. So we'll be doing all that next week. So Mary says her screen is freezing. That will probably be an internet issue, depending on what you're watching on, Mary. I sometimes get that if I'm watching a Facebook Live on my iPad, and if I switch over and watch it on my phone, which admittedly is a little bit small, or on my computer, then the freezing stops, and I don't know what it is. It's a known issue, but I don't know what the fix is, I'm afraid. So if you have if you're watching on an iPad and you have a different device that you could watch on, that might fix it. I'm ever so sorry. I've got no issues my end. Actually, I haven't got myself up on my iPad, so let's just do that because that should help. And I will hopefully be able to see if I'm freezing on mine, but whether that will still tell me anything about what's happening your end, I don't know. But technology is a bit of a pain, frankly. It's wonderful when it works, and when it doesn't work, it's not so good. What else? Oh yes, I've been starting to design the spring extravaganza, so that was very exciting. It's taken me ages to decide what I wanted to use as my kind of main focus. Those of you who've come to my all-day extravaganzas before will know that you usually get a stamp set as part of the class, and I couldn't choose. There were so many lovely ones. So anyway, I have decided to choose the New Horizons stamp set. And you'll be able to optionally order the dies as well. So that will give us lots of scope for lovely summer themed projects. And while I'm on the subject of New Horizons, the patterned paper has finally arrived. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, I will show you in the catalogue in just a minute when I move the camera down. I've been waiting and waiting and waiting to get this paper, so I'm very excited that it's finally back in stock. So if you've been waiting, you can now order it as well. And then tonight we're going to see our daughter. She lives in Southampton. I'm very lucky that she actually doesn't live that far away from me, but I miss her desperately. I haven't seen her since Boxing Day, which feels like far too long. So she and her girlfriend have invited my husband and I over for dinner, so that's very exciting. I'm looking forward to that. Done my COVID test. I'm clear, thank goodness. So far so good. So Belinda has joined us. You're very welcome. Hi Belinda. And welcome, Carol. You didn't get a notification that I was live. I have no idea why that is, Carol, and I'm sorry, but I'm glad that you found me. Okay, so what's new in the Stampin' Up world? Well, I've told you that the New Horizons paper has arrived. Hooray! Celebration is still on, so when you shop you can get free things when you spend £45 or more. When you really spend, you can get free things and extra free things on top when you spend £275, and don't forget that might be just for you, or it might be for you, family, friends, all sorts of people who said, oh yes, I'll order something. And when you join, you get 2 free stamp sets, any 2 you like from either the new catalogue or the main annual catalogue, added on to the other free things that you will get with that. If you're interested in any of those or would like more information, then pop a comment or drop me an email. Just let me know and I can help you out with more information there. Okay, a little bit of class news. Booking now for my March classes. So the March card class and the March card class by post, it's the same projects, just you can receive them by post or you can come and do the class in person. So if you don't live near me, you can still do the class. Booking for that ends on February the 25th, so you've got a whole month, more than a month in fact, to book for that class. It's a 6 card class, 6 different cards. And if you do it by post, you provide your own stamps and inks. And if you don't have the same stamps or ink pads that I use, don't worry, because I give you lots of ideas for other things you can use instead. I'm also booking now for the March Fancy Folds class, Fancy Fold cards, that is. Booking for that closes on... I'm going to go back in a minute. Booking for the Fancy Fold cards class closes on February the 25th. And that class runs on the 21st of March. Going back to the card class, I gave you the wrong book by date. That's actually bookings close on the 4th of February for that because the class is earlier. So sorry for that. So you've got, what's that, 2 weeks-ish to book for that class. And the in-person class runs on the 10th of March near me. I'm in Leamington, and the by post class will be posted out to you the next day. So I think that's all the things I needed to say to you. Let me just check the comments. So Belinda's saying she hopes they've got a lot of the New Horizons paper in the warehouse. Otherwise, she suspects it will go out of stock quite quickly. Yes, I hope so too, Belinda. I checked literally 5 minutes ago, and they're telling us that there's plenty of stocks. It's not even gone on the list telling us that the stocks are low. So there is plenty there. I must admit, I may have ordered more than 1 pack. answers on a postcard as to how many I ordered. Carol's ordered hers too. Yes, there was much excitement yesterday. It was supposed to come in the week of the 10th of January and it didn't. Wherever it was stuck in a container somewhere. Then they told us the following week. Then they said it was going to be, I think, the 24th. Then they said it was going to be the 31st. But actually, it arrived yesterday. So they remembered that old adage, overpromise and no. Is that right? I get it right, getting my overs and unders around the right way. Under promise and over deliver. Yeah. Tell people it's going to take longer than it actually does and we'll be much happier. Yeah, Belinda definitely ordered more than one pack. It's arriving on Monday. That's very exciting, Belinda. I don't know if mine's been dispatched yet, but I will be keeping an eye on it. I wonder if you expedited your order. I didn't, but on the other hand, orders have been coming really, really quickly. I got one, arrived yesterday, and it only took 4 days. I placed the order on Monday and it arrived yesterday. So they're on fire in the warehouse and in customs, to give, credit where credit is due. I've been moaning for the last, I don't know how long, 2 years is it since Brexit? I can't remember, about how long customs procedures are taking, but actually they're super fast at the moment. All right, I'm going to cover you over, move the camera down to my desk so I'll cover you so you hopefully won't get motion sickness. And I'm going to show you the New Horizons paper that I'm talking about, and then we'll get on with some crafting. I will try and remember to keep talking to you because I'm really bad at doing that. And all you get is a yellow screen and then you don't know what's going on. And if you just joined, then you absolutely don't know what's going on. And I ought to say, for those of you who are watching this on the replay, either a replay on Facebook or indeed a replay on YouTube, that you are very welcome as well. And I'm so glad that you could join me today. Okay, I'm just moving a few bits on my desk. I will try and get the leads out of the way, but they're always in the way. And I've got plugs obviously in my craft room, plug sockets, but I've only got so many of them. And they're in fixed places, obviously, so there is a limit to how much I can move everything out of the way. And I try very hard not to have leads trailing everywhere, but it's because it's irritating when they do, but it's a bit easier said than done. Okay. Right, so I'm going to take away my post-it note. We'll see if you can see me. Hi, Sandy. Sandy's joined us. Welcome, welcome, Sandy. How's your jet lag today? Belinda, right, you didn't expedite your order. It was a relatively small order, but it shipped today and you've had a notice for Monday. Wow, that's super. Well, I'm definitely going to go and check my shipping when I get back. Okay, let's move this down here a little bit. Let's see, I don't know if I can tilt that just a little bit. So Sandy says, after my message about the paper being back in stock, she put in yet another order and the Horizon Suite was top of your list. Yeah, I'm not surprised, Sandy. It is really lovely, isn't it? Yes. So I sent a message round to my team yesterday to tell them that this New Horizons paper was back in stock because we've all been waiting for it. Okay. So I think you've got a little bit of my lap there, which is not necessarily a good thing, but I don't think I can avoid it, so never mind. All right, let's find that New Horizons paper that I've been telling you about. Here we are. So this is pages 42 and 43 of the new catalogue. I'm not sure if the whole lot will come up on here, but the paper is down here. And it's not brilliant imagery of the paper. You probably get a better idea, in fact, looking at the samples here. So here, for instance, they have used an entire 6x6 sheet of the paper, and all this vegetation and mountains and lakes you can see in the background is already on the paper. So they are watercolour designs on the paper, and then they've stamped the birds, but other than that, that sky was already on the paper. So it really is absolutely beautiful. If you've got your catalogue, do have a look. So these are the stamps that I will be using in my extravaganza, and the dies will be an optional add-on as well, but I'm very excited. The paper is beautiful. It's 6 inches square. As I say, you get 48 sheets in a pack, and there are 12 designs which are double-sided. You get 4 of each design, and it's absolutely stunning. I've only seen pictures, as I say, it's only just come into the country, or come into our warehouse, I should say, which is in Germany rather than here. But anyway, I can't wait. All right, I'm not going to talk about that anymore, or you may not be able to stop me. So let's have a look at the crafting. Oh, Mary was really annoying. You're just getting a few words and I drop out. David's gone out, so you can't get him to reboot. You'll catch up later. Okay, Mary, I'm so sorry you're having problems. There are few things more frustrating than that. So I hope that the replay will be much better for you. It should be fine. So Sandy slept well last night, but she's just nodded off while watching the TV. I know, that pesky jet lag. Belinda's glad the paper arrived early. She was trying to think of ways to replicate it, and she thinks the images of the paper are actually better in the online store. That's a really good point, Belinda. Yes, absolutely. If you'd like to have a look at better pictures of it, and of course you can magnify the photos on screen as well, then if you go to my website, just type in sallybowman.stampinup.net and you will be able to see pictures of the paper there, as well as everything else in that suite. Okay, I'm going to lift some crafting things up. Trying not to drop them. I'm kind of cabled in here. I've got my microphone cable attached, so I either have to reach and lean very carefully so everything doesn't come out of the sockets, or I have to take everything off, microphone wise at least, and then I can reach more easily. So it's interesting. Okay, so today's theme, if you like, is one sketch, many cards. Now this is something that I've done similar things with card sketches in the past. I do really like card sketches. They took me a while to kind of come to, because I couldn't really get my head around how they worked, but then when it clicked, actually I love them. So briefly, if I see a card I really like, I will often reduce it to a sketch, and I have a notebook of sketches, and I'm just flicking through the catalogue to see if I can find one here. Let's use, while we're talking about it, let's use the New Horizons. So let's say I really like the look of that card there. So what I will do is turn it into a sketch. Let's find a pencil. There we go. So I will draw the outline of the card base. You can tell that I'm doing this live because none of that is straight, but never mind. So that's my card base, and then I will just look at the sample here and think, okay, what shapes are there? Well, I can see that there's a layer on here, but it's been cut into 3 and it's been cut down into unequal sections. So there's a big piece there, and then there are 2 narrower ones here. Now, if you can use a ruler if you like. I must admit I generally don't, because I'm too wanting to get on with it too quickly. I do have a notebook with squared pages in it though, so that makes it a little bit easier to draw straight lines. So that's my 1, 2, 3 sections there, and then I just look at any other detail. Now I'm not going to draw in the birds, I'm not going to draw in the trees or anything else, because I want to be able to look at this and just see shapes. When I look at my sketch, I don't want to be drawn into only using a particular stamp set or set of papers or dies or whatever. But what I often do is pop something here. If they've put a sentiment in and I like the placement, I'll often pop that in. So that is going to represent this here with the sentiment, and I'm just going to rub out those lines that I've crossed over. There we are. And I usually just draw a wiggly line or 2, which for me says that's a sentiment. So that then is my sketch for this card. So I could now take this and I could, onto my card base, do 3 panels of patterned paper, 3 panels that I've stamped, 3 panels that I have embossed, all sorts of things. One of them could be embossed card, one of them could be patterned paper, one of them could be stamped. I could add layers if I wanted. So I've literally drawn a very simple sketch, but of course I could embellish my actual projects by adding layers, so I could add a contrast layer of card behind and then I could have patterned paper on top. This could be a sentiment strip, but it could equally be a stamped and punched flower. It could be a bow. So this will lead me off in lots of directions. And by having the shapes to start with rather than just the photograph in the catalogue, it allows me to be much more creative with it, I find, whilst still having a starting point. Because the same as I'm sure lots of you, I get days where I want to make something but I just don't know where to start. So that's when I pull out my little notebook of sketches. So that's how I make a sketch. And I saw Belinda said she loves sketches. I've mentioned them to her. She's now got a notebook full of sketches. She feels it allows her to put her own mark on a design that she likes or use her own colours, stamps, etc. rather than copying it directly. Exactly, Belinda. Yeah, absolutely. So this is my sketch for today, and I did put a photograph of it on Facebook on the event page for today. So for those of you that use Facebook, you may have seen that. It didn't make for the most exciting photograph for today's live, but I felt it was important to give you a visual. So I've got a standard card base here. And then I've just got two rectangles. I've got a tall, thin one there and a shorter, squatter one there. Now, I wrote on here any shape because I've drawn a rectangle, but this could equally be a square. It could be a circle. It could be a flower. It could be a heart. It could be anything. And the point about a sketch is that you've got total creative freedom on this. Now, I've got a portrait card here, but you could use the same sketch landscape, either way up. You could have this that way round. So that's something you can do for a start. Simply rotate it. Then you can play with the dimensions of everything that's on here. I wrote down the dimensions just because I know some people like a little bit more of a starting point than just the drawn shape. I suggested that this one could be 4.5 by 1 3/4 inches and this one could be 2 by 3 inches. But I also made the suggestion that this is a great thing to use up all kinds of scraps of your paper or card. So if you've got a rectangle that's not these dimensions, then use it anyway. And you may well be surprised at how nice what you come up with is. So I started off with something that was really pretty close to that sketch. Here's one I've made earlier, and I'm also going to make one that's a bit different just to give you some ideas. So for this I've used the Friendly Hello bundle of stamps and papers. Now that's a free celebration item. Both these papers are in that. It's a lovely set. So if you haven't had a look at that yet, open up your celebration brochure and find those. So I've got my card base. I then put on a black layer with a very, very fine border. So my piece of black card is only 1/8 of an inch bigger than my patterned paper, just to give me that very narrow black border, just to set the individual elements slightly apart. My patterned paper is 5 and 5, is it 5 and 5/8 or 5 and 3/4? I think it's 5 3/4 by 3 3/4. Yeah, my pattern paper is 5.5 by 3 3/4 inches, and then it's just 1/8 of an inch bigger on both measurements for the black card. And my patterned paper here is 4.5 by 1 3/4, exactly as I showed in the sketch. And then my black card is 4 5/8 by 1 7/8, so again 1/8 of an inch bigger. And this is 2 inches by 3 inches, and again the black card is 1/8 of an inch bigger, 2 1/8 by 3 1/8. So I know I've gone through that quickly. If you need me to write them down for you, let me know. So let's make one. So I've got all my bits cut to size, and I got on one of the other projects as well. I got slightly carried away as I was preparing this, and I started stamping, and I thought, oh no, stop. I'm supposed to be doing that while you're here watching. So this is the Friendly Hello stamp set. That's the little bird I used on the card I've just shown you, and I've stamped these flowers on here. And if you've been watching this for very long, you will know that I make a lot of thank you cards because I send a lot of thank you cards. So I've used this little thanks stamp from the Celebration Special Moments set. This is fabulous. This has got so many useful greetings on it, and it's free with a £90 spend, so what's not to like, really? So I'm just using that little thanks from there. So I'm going to start with just layering some bits and pieces up. So this time I've gone with Pool Party. I've used a different pattern of paper, but other than that it's exactly the same as the one I've just shown you. And I'll show you them both together at the end, and it's always surprising to me how different a card can look when all you do is change the colours and patterns. So I've layered that onto the black, and as always I'm using my multi-purpose glue because that way I can slide the paper and card before the glue really grabs, and that way I can get these very narrow borders nice and straight. So this is my other piece of paper, again from the same pack. And the flower images on this are the same as the stamp that I've used. I quite like that, the little bird on there. It's a pattern that actually is all over, hence we've got an upside down bird here as well as one who's up the right way. So that's just going to go flat on here. So I've got my border at the top and on the left the same as each other, and a little bit more at the bottom. I quite like that. It's a bit like the way they frame pictures. You'll find that the underneath your picture is slightly deeper than at the top. Visually that just looks better. I don't know why. Oh, Sandy's saying that she's ordered the Special Moments, this sentiment set I just showed you with her latest order. I'm sure you're going to find it's really useful, Sandy. Okay, so I could have these flowers up either way, but I think like that is going to please me the most. So I'm just going to colour those in. I have my Fresh Freesia stamping blends here. That's the dark one. Oh, and that's the light one, and I opened them away from me because these lids have to be very, very tight so that the alcohol ink inside doesn't evaporate, but it does mean sometimes that with the force of pulling the lid off the ink spatters a little bit, and I did not want to get it all over me because it's permanent ink, so it will not wash out. So I'm only going to do very minimal shading on this. And I'll do a couple of petals at a time because the blending of the ink works best of all if you are putting wet ink onto wet ink. So I'm adding in my darker shade there while the lighter shade is still wet, and then I'm just kind of working over the top in some little circles with the pale shade again, and that just ensures that the dark one blends rather than me having stripes of that darker colour. So I'm doing a couple of petals at a time. Hi Jackie. Jackie says she's just dropping in as I popped up. Well, I'm glad I did. And Jackie says that, oops, comments disappeared. Looks a nice idea for card and colouring tips. Thank you, Jackie. I hope so. And I can see Gillian's here. Welcome, Gillian. Lovely to have you. I really, really love about these alcohol ink markers is that you can just kind of colour away without thinking, oops, thinking too much about colouring in a line. You know, like that when you're colouring with felt pens and you feel like you have to colour really neatly because otherwise you will be able to see all your scribble because the water-based inks just don't blend like these alcohol-based ones do. There are lots and lots of different ways to do the shading. So I have just done a kind of a slightly darker bit around the edge of each petal, and then I followed the actual lines on the stamp. And you can see here, once it dries to that true fresh freesia colour. These are a little bit pink where they're still wet. So I'm just going to quickly do this other flower. Sometimes, or quite often actually, I do the colouring in advance, but I thought today it's not a very big image, so I would actually colour live so you can see that it's really me doing it. When I was a child, I used to spend absolutely hours colouring, and then as I became a teenager and older, and actually into adulthood, I still loved colouring, but it was very difficult to get adult colouring books, and I hadn't discovered stamping at that stage. But now, of course, there are adult colouring books everywhere, which is wonderful. I've always got some colouring on the go, and my sister, in fact, for Christmas, gave me a colouring calendar, which is really nice. I'm still working on January's. It's very large. It's a little bit bigger than 12 by 12. And it's an all-over design, so everything needs to be coloured. But I am enjoying it, and I'm using my stamping blends for that. Just hope I finish it before the end of the month. I feel like I ought to, really. I had to move my stamping blends actually. I have got the proper Stampin' Up storage for them, which holds them flat, and I can see where they are and which colour is which is absolutely perfect. But they are normally on the back of my desk, which is over the radiator. And I do like having my desk here because, particularly on cold days like this, I've got all the warm air from the radiator coming under the desk and keeping my knees warm. But alcohol ink markers don't like that, and the alcohol kind of evaporates out of the ink inside and then condenses in the lid. So I've had to move them for the winter. They'll be all right back there in the summer. So Jackie says she loves her blends, and good. Well, I'm glad you're finding watching me colour useful, Jackie. Thank you. Okay, so those are my flowers. I haven't done anything on the middle, have I? What shall we use? Let's have a look. About light pumpkin pie. No, I think I'm going to go with pale papaya instead, which is here. And in what sounds a little bit like a contradiction in terms, this is light pale papaya, dark pale papaya. It's just a slightly less orange, if that makes any sense at all. Okay, let me pop those straight back where they live, then they'll be off the desk. Now I'm just going to stamp my word. I've got Memento ink here. And I use that to stamp these images as well, because my stamping blends are obviously alcohol ink markers, and that means if I use one of our ordinary ink pads to stamp with, then the water in the yes let me start again. With alcohol ink pens, you want to use a water-based stamp pad, ink pad, and that's what Memento is. If I was using water-based pens, like my Stamping Right markers, so they look like this, they've got a round barrel, then those are water-based markers, and so I would need to use a solvent-based ink pad like StazOn to stop the colours smudging the outline. I hope that makes sense. I didn't end up confusing you when I was trying to explain. All right, so that's my thanks stamped there. So now I can just mat and layer this. And I haven't actually pulled out any embellishments for this, so I will have a look in a minute. So I could use the In Colour Jewels, which I do like because they are very sparkly, or I could use the matte black dots, or I could use the heart and home dots. So I'll pull some of those out in a minute and you can help me choose. So I'm raising this up using some dimensionals just to make it a little bit more of a focal point. And if you've been watching me for any length of time, you know that I use plenty of dimensionals. I see some people use just a couple or one on each corner, and I prefer to add more so that the middle of my element is supported and it's not going to get squashed. There we are. So that's that. Right, let me find some embellishments. So I've got matte black dots. Let's pull those out so you can see them. Or I have in colour jewels. I do love these, but actually I'm thinking that's going to, although it's the same colour as my flower, I think they're probably going to fight with the pool party on there a little bit, but you can tell me what you think. Or there's the, I can't remember what they're called. There's the dots that come in the heart and home, classic matte dots. Here we are. These are much smaller, so I could use the black ones on here. So tell me what you think. There we go. So Carol's saying the matte black dots, so that's the bigger ones, I'm assuming, Carol, is it? Rather than the ones that come in the assortment. So these are the ones that come on their own. They're slightly larger and they're rounder. These are smaller and flatter. I don't know what anyone else thinks. I'm actually going to drink some of my tea because I can feel my throat getting dry. Okay, let's see what anyone else thinks. Oh, that's better. That's just the perfect temperature to drink. Belinda saying matte black dots too. Excellent. That's very helpful, ladies. Thank you. Right, 2 votes for those. Carol saying either. Carol saying either, probably the smaller ones. Okay. Well, I'll put away the jewels. Perhaps I'll use these because I did use these on the other card, so it's quite nice to have a change, isn't it? Leave those over there. Okay, I hope you don't mind, Belinda. Right, let's pick some of these up. They are really tiny, these tiny ones, actually. I think this actually needs, because they're smaller, I think it needs a couple more. There we are. Okay, I'm going to put them back in here, otherwise things end up scattered all over my desk if I don't keep them corralled. Okay, and then I'm going to quickly add to my insert. I've just got a scrap of paper that I trimmed off, which I'm just going to pop across the bottom. I'll use my grid paper to help me keep it straight. And I'm not going to stamp a sentiment in here because I want plenty of room to say what I'm saying thank you for. There we are. So that is my completed card. So the pieces are exactly the same as the other one I made. The same as my sketch. but it does look quite different. And I've just spotted one of these little dots here. Look, did you see that ping off? I missed it, but there it is. Let's pop that back. All right, I'm just going to clear up slightly and find the materials for the next one. I'll leave you that one to have a look at. Yep. Oh, Jackie said the smaller black dots as well. Yes, Jackie, it's these. They are called Classic Matte Dots, and they're in the new catalogue. Jackie loves how the black layer makes it pop. Yes, it really does, Jackie. I know a lot of black can make a design look very heavy, or even like you're making a sympathy card if you're not, but just a very thin layer makes those colours pop, and it's something I do quite often. Thank you, Sandy. I'm glad